Oh my goodness, that's a great question because you would probably get just a handful of people that would be on that list.
In the world of country music, you've got your rivalries, your public feuds, and your larger-than-life personas. But for decades, one name has stood apart as a symbol of pure class and kindness. Vince Gill. He's the artist everyone seems to love, the collaborator everyone trusts. He is, for all intents and purposes, the genuinely beloved mayor of Music City. But what if that wasn't the whole story? Lately, a pretty wild rumor has been making the rounds in fan forums and on social media. The claim is that, at 68 years old, Vince Gill has finally broken his silence and revealed a private list of 7 artists he secretly couldn't stand. Tonight, we aren't here to just repeat gossip. We're going to investigate it. We're looking into the whispers that have followed one of country music's most respected figures for his entire career. We're talking alleged backstage betrayals, quiet disagreements, and the names that keep popping up on this explosive, supposed list. But is any of it true? Does the nicest guy in country music have a secret history of hate? By the end of this, the answer might say more about Nashville, and maybe even us, than it does about Vince Gill. The first name that always seems to appear on this rumored list is, for many, the most unbelievable: Kris Kristofferson. On the surface, it just doesn't add up. Kristofferson is a legend. The brilliant mind behind timeless classics like Me and Bobby McGee and Sunday Morning Coming Down. Vince Gill, a fellow master songwriter, has even gone on record praising Kristofferson's incredible talent with words. So where would any bad blood come from? Well, the rumor isn't about Kristofferson's songwriting. It's about his performance style. The story that gets passed around paints a picture of 2 artists from totally different worlds. Vince Gill is known as a perfectionist who lives for precision and flawless vocals. Kristofferson, on the other hand, built his legend on being the exact opposite: raw, rugged, and gloriously unpredictable. His performances were famously messy, a style critics loved to call authentic and gritty. According to online gossip, this was a huge source of frustration for Gill. The most cited piece of evidence is a story from a CMA rehearsal that has become an urban legend. The tale claims that when Kristofferson was up to perform, Vince Gill supposedly left early, allegedly muttering something about not wanting to watch another train wreck on stage. Another story, often told by people claiming to be in the know, is that he once privately said, "It's not deep, it's just sloppy. We lowered the bar and called it genius." But here's the thing. Despite these persistent stories, there is absolutely no credible record proof that Vince Gill ever said any of this. No reputable magazine, no named source, and no official biography has ever backed up this supposed feud. The stories of backstage muttering remain completely unsubstantiated, fueled only by the very real and obvious differences in how they approach their art. So, why won't the rumor die? It taps into a deep tension within country music itself, the battle between polished perfection and raw authenticity. Vince Gill represents the disciplined craftsman who honors music with a flawless performance. Kristofferson embodies the outlaw poet who believes a song's power is in its untamed, human imperfection. Their alleged feud is almost certainly a tall tale, a story cooked up to give this artistic debate a face. In Nashville, suggesting there's a problem between Vince Gill and Garth Brooks is almost unthinkable. These 2 guys were the undisputed kings of 90s country. Both from Oklahoma, they ruled the charts, sold tens of millions of albums, and defined an entire era of music. And yet, for all that shared success, the fact that they never had a major collaboration has been a source of quiet speculation for years. The rumor mill claims this was no accident. The story suggests that while Gill respected Garth as a fellow Oklahoman, he privately disliked what Brooks stood for. The moment country music became less about storytelling and more about a stadium-sized show, Garth was a true phenomenon. Didn't just sing songs, he put on a rock concert in a cowboy hat, sprinting across massive stages with a headset mic and pyrotechnics. Fans went wild for it, but the rumor is that Vince Gill watched it all with quiet disapproval. The whispers allege that Gill saw this as a betrayal of country's core values, swapping genuine emotion for fire and flash. Stories have floated around for years of Gill politely turning down invitations to present Garth with awards, not out of personal dislike, but because he couldn't celebrate a style he didn't truly believe in. People claim that when Garth got standing ovations, Vince would stay seated, offering only polite applause. However, just like with Kristofferson, actual evidence of a personal feud just isn't there. There's no public record of Gill ever saying a negative word about Garth Brooks personally. The whole idea of this rivalry is built on reading between the lines. The conflict wasn't personal, it was philosophical. It was a battle over what a country star should be. Vince Gill was the humble traditionalist who let the songs do the talking. Garth Brooks was the global entertainer who made country bigger than anyone ever thought possible. The silence between them likely wasn't born of hate, but of 2 completely different and maybe irreconcilable artistic paths. In the mid-90s, no stars shined brighter than Shania Twain. She was the undisputed queen of country pop, a glamorous and unstoppable force who took the genre to every corner of the globe. And according to the whispers that follow Vince Gill, her massive success was a source of private pain for the country traditionalist. The supposed issue was authenticity. For a purist like Vince Gill, who built his career on steel guitars and the traditions of classic country, Shania's sound was seen as watered down. Her music, slickly produced and full of pop hooks, felt like a step away from Nashville's storytelling roots and a step toward mainstream radio. The rumor is that Gill saw this as a bad trade. A quote that often gets thrown around in these discussions, supposedly from a radio interview with Gill, is, "There's country, and then there's country with glitter on top." He never said Shania's name, but the timing led many to think it was a shot at her style. Insiders have claimed for years that he turned down a major televised duet with her, explaining that their sounds just don't align. To the gossips, this wasn't just about musical taste, it was a quiet protest. He didn't hate her, the story goes, but he hated what her success meant for the future of country music. But again, we have to separate the juicy gossip from the hard facts. There are no credible sources confirming any of these quotes or that a duet was ever formally turned down for those reasons. The story of a feud between Vince Gill and Shania Twain is another case of a philosophical debate being twisted into a personal fight. The tension wasn't between two people, it was between two powerful ideas in 90s Nashville, tradition and innovation. Gill was the standard bearer for the classic sound. Shania was the revolutionary who blew the doors off those traditions to create something new that millions of people loved. Did Vince Gill worry about the direction country music was heading? His interviews suggest he was disappointed with the industry's focus on just making hits, but singling out Shania Twain as the target of that frustration is a leap the evidence just doesn't support. Achy Breaky Heart. In 1992, those three words turned Billy Ray Cyrus into a global sensation and, as the legend goes, made Vince Gill question everything. The song was more than a hit. It was a cultural tidal wave. It was an inescapable earworm with its own line dance that launched a mullet-wearing heartthrob into pop culture history. And while the world was dancing, the rumor is that Vince Gill was fuming. For a musician like Gill, who was schooled in the complex melodies of bluegrass and jazz, a song like Achy Breaky Heart could have felt like an insult to the craft. The story passed down for decades is that Gill saw the song as simplistic, gimmicky, and a bad sign for Nashville. The most famous anecdote claims Gill was overheard in a green room joking that Billy Ray's song had set country music back 10 years. This, quote, "real or not," spread like wildfire through Music Row and cemented the idea of a feud. To the storytellers, Gill didn't hate Billy Ray, the man, but he couldn't stand what he represented, the triumph of image over artistry. As with the other names, these quotes aren't backed up by any reliable source. They exist as industry folklore, easy-to-repeat stories that capture a much bigger debate. The feud was really a culture war. Vince Gill was the embodiment of artistry and craft. Billy Ray Cyrus, fairly or not, became the poster child for commercialism a moment, when a catchy hook seemed to matter more than lyrical depth. Gill himself has clearly expressed his preference for traditional songwriting, once saying in an interview, "I would love to hear someone write a song like He Stopped Loving Her Today rather than You're Hot, I'm Hot. We're in a truck, it's just mind-numbing to me." It's easy to see how a feeling like that could get twisted and attached to the biggest, most simplistic hit of the era. The story isn't really about Vince Gill versus Billy Ray Cyrus. It's about a fear that the genre was losing its soul. An Achy Breaky Heart became the symbol of that fear. We're halfway through this rumored list of Vince Gill's most artists, and a clear pattern is emerging. These stories seem to be less about personal hate and more about a clash of musical values. But the nama still to come supposedly pushed Gill's quiet frustrations even further. If you're finding this look behind the rumors as fascinating as we do, take a second to subscribe to our channel. We're all about looking past the headlines to find the real stories. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, so you don't miss what's next. As country music entered the 21st century, a new sound took over the radio. Bro country, this subgenre, with its rock guitars and lyrics about trucks, beer, and parties, was led by artists like Jason Aldean. Aldean became a massive star, but his rise allegedly stood for everything Vince Gill found hollow in modern country. The rumors claim that Gill saw Aldean's music as the final nail in the coffin for traditional country storytelling. The nuanced tales of life and love that Gill built his career on were being replaced by loud party anthems. One supposed quote, from a conversation with a Nashville producer, has Gill saying, "You can turn it up all you want, but if there's nothing to say, what's the point?" Aldean's name wasn't used, but he was the speculative target. Insiders have claimed Gill would quietly skip events where Aldean was the main attraction. The story isn't framed as jealousy, it's a matter of artistic principle. Gill just couldn't endorse what Aldean's music, in his view, represented. Once again, we have to separate industry gossip from documented fact. There is no public record of Vince Gill ever specifically criticizing Jason Aldean. Any claims of him avoiding events are completely unsubstantiated. What we do have are Gill's own words about the general state of music. He has lamented the lack of originality in the modern industry, but he never singled out Aldean or the bro country movement by name. The supposed feud between Gill and Aldean is a modern retelling of the same old story, tradition versus modernity. Gill is the elder statesman, a guardian of the genre's history. Aldean is the modern superstar who adapted to the tastes of a new generation. The conflict isn't between two men, but between two eras. The rumors are likely just another case of people projecting Gill's known musical values onto a high-profile target. This next name might seem like it's coming out of nowhere, but it speaks to a conflict that goes way beyond genre. Kanye West. Of course, Vince Gill has never publicly feuded with the controversial rapper. They operate in completely different worlds. So why does Kanye's name even come up? Because according to the rumors, Kanye isn't a rival. He's a symbol. The story goes that for Vince Gill, Kanye West represents the absolute worst of modern celebrity: ego, spectacle, and a need for attention that smothers the art. The evidence for this is, like the others, purely based on interpreting Gill's general statements. In a 2016 interview, Gill said something that got the rumor mill going: "I see young artists walk into a room and expect everyone to bow down. In my time, listening first was how you gained respect." He didn't name anyone, but this was said right around the time Kanye West was making headlines for declaring himself the greatest artist of all time. Fans and industry insiders immediately connected the dots, believing this was Vince Gill's subtle way of pushing back against that kind of self-worship. To Gill, the narrative suggests music should be about humility and sincere connection. It's not about hijacking award shows or turning every public appearance into a personal drama. Kanye became the pop culture symbol of everything Gill seemed to stand against. This is, by far, the most speculative name on the list. There is zero evidence that Vince Gill has ever even said the name Kanye West. The connection is entirely made up by outside observers. However, the fact that it's part of the myth is important. It tries to elevate Gill's supposed complaints from simple genre disputes to a grander philosophical battle for the soul of music itself, positioning him as a quiet warrior for artistic humility. The final name that often comes up in these discussions is maybe the most complicated: Travis Tritt. Unlike the pop crossovers, Tritt came up in the same 90s wave as Gill and was also seen as a carrier of the traditional country flame. On paper, they should have been allies. So, why would he be on this rumored list? The alleged feud with Travis Tritt is said to be about something more personal. The whispers point to a clash of personalities and professional styles. Travis Tritt, while a traditionalist, was also known for his outspoken nature and a bad boy swagger, stark contrast to Gill's famously calm demeanor. The rumors speak of a quiet, simmering tension. There are no big stories of public fights, but rather tales of a death stare backstage or a pointed silence when one's name came up. It was a rivalry, the story goes, built on unspoken disapproval. Gill, the ultimate professional, supposedly saw Tritt's outlaw attitude as disrespectful, while Tritt may have seen Gill as part of a polished Nashville establishment he was rebelling against. Like every other name on this list, it's vital to say there is no credible, documented evidence of a feud. They were contemporaries in the same musical space, but the idea of a deep-seated personal rivalry is completely unsupported by the public record. So, why does this rumor even exist? It serves as the ultimate proof of the secret nature of the list. If even a fellow traditionalist could land on it, it suggests Gill's standards were impossibly high. It completes the mythology, covering all the bases: pop crossovers, modern rockers, egotists, and even a rival within his own camp. Paints a picture of a man who, beneath his nice guy exterior, was a quiet judge of all his peers. It's a great story, but one that appears to be entirely fictional. So, after looking at all 7 names on Vince Gill's supposed hate list: Chris Christopherson, Garth Brooks, Shania Twain, Billy Ray Cyrus, Jason Aldean, Kanye West, and Travis Tritt, we find the same thing every time. The story completely falls apart under any real scrutiny. There is no list. There are no credible quotes. The entire idea of Vince Gill naming artists he hated appears to be nothing more than an internet fabrication, built on gossip and twisting a larger debate into a personal vendetta. What this investigation really shows isn't a secret history of hate, but a testament to Vince Gill's true character. He's a man of deep principles who has, at times, shared his concern for the direction of the music he loves, but he has almost always done so with grace, focusing on the music, not the person. Maybe the best argument against this rumored list is how Vince Gill has acted in public, especially when it was tough. In 2003, when the Dixie Chicks were being attacked by the industry for their political comments, it was Vince Gill who stood on the ACM Awards stage, told the booing crowd to stop it, and reminded them that forgiveness is a blessing. He defended their right to free speech, even while making it clear he held the opposite political view. That is not what a man who secretly hates his peers does. It's what a man who values fairness, respect, and decency does. The myth of Vince Gill's hate list tells us more about us than it does about him. It shows how much we want to believe in secret feuds and hidden dramas, to find a dark side to even the most respected figures. But the truth here is far less scandalous and much more admirable. Vince Gill's legacy isn't defined by a secret list of enemies, but by a public record of integrity, talent, and a profound love for the soul of country music.